Changing your own oil is not that difficult. As a matter of fact, if you're into vehicles and like engines and that kind of mechanical stuff, it's actually enjoyable, I think. If you got the right tools, and if you've got everything you need to make it an easy and quick job. I've got a 7.3 Power Stroke diesel here in back of me, and I thought I'd just take a video of how to change the oil. And this would apply to most other vehicles as well, because it's pretty much the same thing. All engines have oil, all engines have an oil filter, and both of those need to be changed. It's pretty simple. It can be a little dirty, but just wear old work clothes and be prepared to get a little oil on your hands, because it's going to happen. But you'll save money in the long run. So, I've got Valvoline Premium Blue Heavy Duty Diesel Oil and the famous Shell Rotella T oil. And I'm just going to compare the differences between those two. And I'm not sure which one I'm going to put in, but we'll decide on that later on. This one's been certified by Cummins, and this one's just got a big name out. I've heard a lot about it, so I thought we'd try it. So let's go over the basics that you need to know about how to change your engine oil. The list of tools and items you will need to change your engine oil is very small. After all, it's not a very complex process to change your own engine oil. But here's some of the things you'll want to have. You want to have a used oil pan to collect your used engine oil. And then I would recommend having a large container to store that used oil in with a lid on it so it doesn't spill and make a huge mess. You want to have a tool to remove the oil filter. These are available at any auto store. Be sure to get the right size. This 7.3 has got a very large oil filter, so this is larger than the average size oil filter remover. Other tools are sized like this. This is the average size for most vehicles. As you can see, compared to that, it's a lot smaller. Make sure you have the right oil filter as well. You don't want to drain all the engine or the oil out of your engine and then realize that you don't have the correct filter. This is a Wix filter. It's what we've been using lately. So just make sure you have the right oil filter to be replaced. Make sure you have enough engine oil too. You don't want to get halfway through your oil changing process and then find out that you're short on oil. Have an adjustable wrench or a torque wrench, I would recommend. That way you don't have to worry about stripping out the bolt that is on the bottom of your oil pan that you remove to drain the oil and put back in place to hold the oil in the pan. I would recommend a torque wrench so you don't over tighten it, or just have a simple adjustable wrench. That's a 15-inch, so that's a pretty big one. At the most you would probably need an 8 or a 10-inch. They shouldn't be any tighter than what would be needed to remove it with that. And if you want to make the process comfortable, get one of these. They're really nice. They make working underneath the vehicle very easy and comfortable, and they're not very pricey either. Good for people who do a lot of work underneath their engines or under their vehicles and move around a lot. Have a clean funnel for pouring your new oil into the engine, and a light for working underneath your vehicle. It makes it a lot easier. Last but not least, have plenty of paper towels. I keep my paper towels when I'm working on the vehicle on the antenna. It acts as a nice dispenser. Before you start, check the engine temperature. If the oil is too cold, it's going to be really thick, and it might not all drain within the amount of time that would be reasonable. If the engine oil is too hot, you can be burned as the oil is flowing out of the oil pan. This vehicle has an oil temperature meter, and it is currently 147 degrees, so that's not too bad. It'll still flow easily, and yet I don't have to worry about being burned. Most vehicles just have the standard engine temperature gauge like you have right there. A good operating temperature to change the engine oil is between this line here, the operating range line, and about a quarter of the way up. That way you don't have to worry about being burned. and the engine will be warm enough so that the oil will flow smoothly. Next, remove the key from the ignition and keep it in your pocket. The last thing you want to happen is somebody to get in the vehicle, maybe while you have to leave to get something, and start it up thinking everything's okay and it be out of oil. You'll ruin your engine really quick. So make sure the keys are out of the ignition and in a safe place where you won't forget them. Some vehicles are so low to the ground that it's not easy at all, maybe even impossible, to work underneath them, and you have to get underneath the engine to change the oil, so you'll have to get underneath the vehicle. In this case, you will need some ramps, and you'll drive the vehicle up on top of these ramps. Usually you just need to drive the front of the vehicle up. The front two tires on the ramps, they're usually about 8 to 10 inches or so. That's how much they'll raise the front end of the vehicle up. Once you've done that, be sure to set the parking brake and put your automatic transmission in park or your manual transmission in first gear so that the vehicle cannot move. But since I'm working on the king of SUVs here, the Ford Excursion, I don't need to jack this vehicle up on any ramps because there is plenty of workspace underneath there. Alright, first step is to locate the oil pan drain plug and remove it. Now I've got my torque wrench on the drain plug, and at the most it should be around 10 foot-pounds of torque. So we'll remove that. Once I've got it loose, I can take it off the rest of the way with my fingers here. And as soon as that comes out, the oil will start draining into the pan I have below the oil pan on the engine here. See, you'll get a little bit of oil on your hands. Have plenty of paper towels too, to clean up any messes. Once you've removed the oil pan plug, keep it in a clean, dry area where you will see it and not forget about it. In this case, I keep it up here above the cooling fan on my engine so that before I start pouring new oil into the engine, I'll remember to put the plug back on. When the oil is finished draining out of the pan, remove the oil filter. Take your oil filter removal tool, get a tight grip on the filter, and turn it counterclockwise. The filter will loosen up, and as the seal is separated from the engine, it will turn easier. Before long, you can just remove it with your hand. Now that you've removed the oil pan drain plug and the old oil filter, it's time to install the new oil filter. What you need to do is take a little bit of clean oil, I just poured a little bit into the cap here, and coat the seal of your new oil filter with clean oil. This ensures that the seal will do its job properly. Once you've done that, you're ready to put the new oil filter on. Next, tighten your filter. I'll back it off a bit so you can see, but when you put your filter on, turn it clockwise until the seal comes in contact with the engine like it did right there. Then, use your oil filter tool to turn the oil filter one full turn clockwise to tighten it. After you've tightened the filter completely with your oil filter tool, one full turn, your oil filter is ready to go. It may not seem very tight, but the seal will do its job. The oil filters don't have to be very tight. Next, reinstall your oil pan drain plug and tighten to 10 foot-pounds, or whatever pounds your owner's manual recommends. When you've reinstalled your filter and drain plug, clean off any oil from these points. So if there are any leaks, they will be visible. Now that you've installed a new filter and installed the engine oil pan drain plug, locate the engine oil fill port. Remove the cap. Again, put in a clean, dry place. Then get your filter or not your filter, your funnel. Put it in the port and fill your engine with the owner's manual's recommended amount of oil. When you've poured the correct amount of oil into your engine, replace the oil fill port cap. Turn it until it clicks. On most engines, that is. Some of the older ones might not have that. But get it not excessively tight, but fairly tight. Be sure to dispose of your used engine oil properly. Some shops burn used engine oil in their heaters to heat the shops, and they'll usually take your used engine oil for free. When you've finished adding the engine oil, check the oil dipstick and make sure that you have the correct amount of oil in the engine. Next, start the engine. The oil pressure meter should read within the operating range within 10 to 15 seconds, like you see there. If you have an oil temperature gauge, it should read cooler than it did earlier, like it does right there. Next, check for leaks while the engine is running. Once you have checked for leaks and made sure that your oil pressure gauge is in the normal operating condition and your oil dipstick gauge reads normal within operating condition, or within the operating range they show on the dipstick, you have successfully changed your engine oil. Put all your tools back in their places so you know where everything is next time you go to change your oil. I'm Daniel at Daniel Jager Films. Hope you enjoyed the show.